So this is an event organized by the United Nations University as part of the Impulsouth project, which is financed by the IDRC, the International Development Research Center. And the project is coordinated by Fundación Avina, implemented by UNU Flasco Ecuador and other national partners. And we're going to hear more about this project later within the presentations. So just a quick overview of what this session is about. We're going to be talking about empowerment of young professionals in Africa and how to sort of accelerate the transition to a resilient and low carbon economy, and also enhancing their participation in policy setting processes towards Africa's development targets. Some of the key questions that we were aiming to in responding in this session, as you can see in the agenda and through our excellent panel of speakers, we're looking at the question, what are the various institutions represented doing to empower young professionals to become the next generation of climate leaders or green entrepreneurs? And what is the most powerful insight for integrating and empowering youth in government sector teams and in other sectors, for example, also in the NDC process, reporting progress at the 2030 Global Stocktake events and other climate action initiatives. So we're very excited to hear from our different speakers, as you can see on our list. And we're going to kick off with Ms. Christina Recacavas from the United Nations Institute for Training and Research, UNITA. Christina, you have the floor. And as Christina takes the floor, just remember we have 4 minutes for this session per speaker, so let's be mindful because we want to hear from everyone.
Great, thank you very much, Margaret. Good morning, good afternoon. I'm delighted to be here today and have an opportunity to present UNCC Learn, one of our main projects promoting climate change education, training, and public awareness. Next slide, perhaps. Thank you. We think it's very important to empower youth on climate change as the next generations will fully experience its effects. At the same time, young people are the future leaders, entrepreneurs, and professionals who can build greener and more sustainable societies. To do so, they need to have appropriate knowledge and skills. Therefore, they are a very important target group for UNCC Learn. UNCC Learn is a One UN initiative bringing together 36 multilateral organizations for the promotion of climate change learning. Its secretariat is hosted at UNITAR, and it is supported by the Swiss government and UN partners. At the global level, UNCC Learn delivers a series of activities for the promotion of global climate literacy. And at the national level, it supports countries in developing and implementing national climate change learning strategies through a multi-stakeholder approach, which includes also young people. UNCC Learn is currently active in 30 countries, and including 20 countries in Africa. Activities supported by UNCC Learn for young people and young professionals in the continent include supporting countries in promoting climate change education, for instance, through the integration of climate change into school curricula at different level, youth engagement and youth exchanges as well. A second way is through online resources. We have an online space that is available to anyone interested, providing information on climate change and climate change learning in general. And in particular, we offer an e-learning platform that is free and includes over 40 courses on climate change and green economy topics. We also support training for professionals in different sectors based on priorities and needs identified at the national level. So we have, for instance, supported the training on climate change for government officials, negotiators, but also for journalists, teachers, health professionals, or forestry professionals. And finally, we also contribute to public awareness efforts directed to young people and the global public For instance, we recently organized a radio and TV program on climate change in Southern Africa, but also through online communication channels and so on. In doing so, it is important for us to make sure that the content and the training is contextualized, is tailored to the needs of the learners, that it provides opportunities for peer exchange, dialogue, for self-reflection, and also practical tools and tips to encourage application of the knowledge. And I'm going to conclude with two examples, more specific example from our work. One is what you can see already on screen. It's a screenshot from our e-learning platform, UNCC eLearn. And more specifically, sorry, the previous slide, well, doesn't matter. Yes, this one. This slide shows a course on integrating climate change into policy in West Africa that has been made available in collaboration with the Regional Training Center Agrimet, based in Niger, and is targeted at master students and professionals in that sub-region. And the second example, next image, thank you. This picture shows a group of young refugees in a refugee camp in Ethiopia preparing for a youth climate dialogue, so an online exchange with students in another country, in this case students in France, on climate change, observe impacts but also solutions. You can find more information about UNCC Learn on the website. UNCC Learn has been active already for 10 years, and we are now starting a new phase for other 5 years, scaling up this work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Christina. And what great work that you're doing there, showing us that, you know, it's going beyond the learning to actually to show this learning tools that are tailored to the needs of the students, and also ensuring that that knowledge is applied. Thank you very much for that. And next, we have Mr. Michel Omer Laivao from Madagascar, and he is the Chief of Science for Climate Service at the Ministry of Environment and Sustainable Development in Madagascar. You have the floor. If you could please unmute, then we can hear you.
Oh, excusez-moi, oui. Merci beaucoup, Madame Christine, de m'avoir donné la parole. Je suis Michel Omer Laivao, je travaille pour le compte du gouvernement malgache. À la fois, je suis le point focal de la Convention cadre des Nations Unies sur le changement climatique. Concernant la thématique que nous avons évoquée aujourd'hui sur l'autonomisation des jeunes, responsabilisation des jeunes, sur la transparence climat et leur relance verte. Je vais partager quelques expériences de Madagascar là-dessus. Ouais, c'est slide suivant. Oui. Comme vous savez, le titre, c'est Jeunes, changement climatique, formation. Et comme vous savez, Madagascar est la plus grande île de l'Afrique, qui est environ 600 000 km² avec 25 millions d'habitants, dont 65% sont moins de 25 ans. Donc, selon l'Organisation des Nations Unies sur la population, la population de Madagascar constitue une population très, très jeune. Et en plus, vous savez que l'économie est basée sur l'agriculture et l'élevage. Quand on parle de changement climatique, de part de sa position géographique, Madagascar, naturellement, est l'endroit du passage des cyclones par an. Mais depuis l'existence du changement climatique, cet événement, les cyclones et les sécheresses s'intensifient et Madagascar devient un pays très vulnérable. Et aujourd'hui, quand on parle, qu'est-ce que l'État a fait? Premièrement, l'État a inclus le changement climatique comme priorité dans la politique générale de l'État. C'est-à-dire, la lutte contre le changement climatique, c'est une priorité. Il y a tous les instruments, les stratégies, les plans d'action, etc., sont déjà établis. Comme vous voyez sur l'écran, là, nous sommes en train de finaliser le plan national d'adaptation et le CDN, on est en train de réviser le CDN aussi pour la stratégie à long terme de développement à faible émission de gaz à effet de serre. D'ici un mois, on aura la stratégie. Ça prouve la volonté de l'État d'aller vers, de lutter le changement climatique. Concernant la formation et la sensibilisation, qu'est-ce que nous avons fait? Nous avons commencé par la sensibilisation à tous les niveaux à travers les expositions et les emails, les films. Nous avons sensibilisé les décideurs, les écoliers, les jeunes qui ne vont pas à l'école. Il ne faut pas oublier que maintenant, le ministère de la Jeunesse est en train d'établir la stratégie changement climatique pour les jeunes qui ne vont pas à l'école. Et avant-dernier point, nous avons aussi ce projet de Capacity Building Initiative for Transparency over Paris Agreement, ou CBIT. Ça, c'est vraiment un avantage pour Madagascar actuellement parce que ce projet est financé par Fonds pour l'environnement mondial et ce projet est consacré, est destiné pour mettre en place des outils nécessaires et de renforcer les capacités, surtout des nouvelles générations de techniciens au sein des différents départements institutionnels. Il faut noter au passage que l'éducation à Madagascar tient compte déjà du changement climatique, l'éducation de base, l'éducation secondaire, et puis à l'université, on commence à intégrer toutes les volets du changement climatique dans les différentes filières. Deuxième slide pour finir. Malgré tout cela, beaucoup reste à faire, c'est-à-dire yes. Ouais, malgré tout cela, nous sommes on a besoin de former les techniciens et les chercheurs. Nous avons besoin de former les techniciens pour l'inventaire des gaz à effet de serre et l'étude de vulnérabilité et les options d'adaptation et d'atténuation. Et puis, comme vous voyez, la coopération sud-sud comme Impulsouth est hyper important pour Madagascar. Et j'espère que cette formation pourrait combler les gaps de manque de formation et de renforcement de capacités, surtout pour les jeunes générations. Parce que et puis maintenant, cette formation est comme l'offre que l'UNITAR avait annoncée tout à l'heure, c'est très important pour Madagascar aussi, parce que on sait que les jeunes d'aujourd'hui, ils sont le futur de notre planète commune. Ouais, sur ce, je termine mon intervention et je vous remercie vous tous.
Merci beaucoup. And thank you very much, Mr. Michel, and also for showing us how the work that UNITAR relates to your work, for example, in Madagascar. And thank you very much for highlighting the importance of education, not only for those going to formal schools, but also young people who are not going to the schools, and most of all for putting it, for really emphasizing that young people are the future. Thank you very much. And now we would like to go to our next speaker, Miss and Dr. Faten Atik Bahar. She's from Tunisia, and she's a member of the executive board of the Young Earth System Scientists, the YES community. You have the floor, Faten.
Thank you very much, Margaret. Thank you very much, the organizing team, for this very nice event. I'm very glad today to talk about the young Earth scientists and how do we work in order to promote the next generation of the climate leaders. The next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, let me first say a few words about YES. We are a network of early career scientists that unifies international and multidisciplinary early career researchers in a powerful network in order to provide a voice for our scientists and the young scientists to serve the society. For our membership, we have more than 2,000 members. We are representing different parts of the world. So what we offer as a network of young scientists, we have an international platform, so it is an opportunity for networking, for exchange among the young scientists, and also among other researchers from over the world. We create opportunities, and it is very important, and this is what I'm going to show in my next slide. And also we organize events, and we work a lot to build the capacities and also to promote building capacities. For example, I can give an example of what we did this year, 2020 and 2021. We organized more than 6 webinar series with our partners from WRP, from GAU, from PAUS, and also we had some webinar that we organized based on the request of our members. And this is very important to see what we should offer to promote this next generation of the young leaders, climate leaders. And also we are partnered with international organizations, and we had the chance to be represented in many international events. The next slide, please. The next slide, please. The next slide. Okay, thank you very much. Here, I would like to highlight some of the cooperation and the partnership we have within YES. So yes, we have a close relationship with WMO and the research arms, WCRP and WWRP, and it's the research program, GWEX. Also GAU, Global Atmospheric Watch. Also, we have close relation with Future Earth. And also we cooperate with APEX, with PAUS, with the Young Ideological Society and Early Career Researcher Network of Network. And as a young scientist, we had also the opportunity and the chance to be represented in the international communities. For example, YES was represented in the COP 23, 25, and 24. We have YES represented in the knowledge action networks of Future Earth and also the Future Earth implementation team, Future Earth Assembly. We have YES represented at the World Meteorological Organization Research Board. We have YES represented at the GAU Science Steering Committee, and also we have also YES represented at the GWEX gas panel and many other representations. So those are some highlights, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Faten Bahar. There we see really the importance of interdisciplinarity, and also thanks for highlighting that important part on the importance of partnerships in order for youth to have different entry points, even with various organizations, for them to really share their work and also to build their capacities. And next, we're going to go to our next speaker, Mr. Joshua Amponsem from Ghana, and he's the Executive Director of the Green Africa Youth Organization, GAYO. Joshua, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Margaret, and good morning, everyone, at least from my side in Ghana. I'm very happy to be here, to be part of this event, and thanks for inviting me. So I'm just going to briefly talk about the work we do at Green Africa Youth Organization, and just highlight on a couple of things that is ongoing to support young people in West Africa and across Sub-Saharan Africa in the context of increasing access to youth engagement on decision making, and how that ties in with sort of the global movement when it comes to youth engagement. So in Ghana, Green Africa Youth Organization is just last week, we launched one project, which we call in the Youth Climate Council. And the Youth Climate Council, which was launched just a couple of weeks ago, together with UNICEF Ghana and the Ministry of Environment, is an initiative that is seeking to unify the youth movement at the country level, such that input from young people in terms of access and policy is more structured in a way that the ministry has sort of a go-to place when it comes to reviewing policies and seeking the input of young people. The second aspect of it, which is very important, and we're hoping to replicate this across Sub-Saharan Africa and also in Global South countries at large, is the lack of resources that young people have in terms of individual activists and youth organizations to really mobilize, organize, have the time to meet up, to strategize, and to bring their input into formalized structures. This is very non-existent because, of course, as you would know, not so many youth organizations have access to funding, have access to the technical capacity to bring themselves together, to self-organize, and to set up meetings and invite everyone. The transportation and other logistics cost is not possible. So the Youth Climate Council approach is really to put a couple of young people at a secretariat and give them that capacity and that resource so that they can consult with the broader youth movement at the country level and bring that input into policy. So that is one project that we're very excited about. A lot of thinking through have gone into it to make sure that this really opens up the space in terms of inclusion and accessibility, that whether you are a climate striker or whether you are a young researcher or whether you are an artist and someone who is in sports and interested in climate, you have equal opportunity to influence policy and you have a go-to place to send your input. So that is one thing that we're doing. And then the second part of the work that we're doing when it comes to climate is really training and capacity building in the context of climate risk and disaster management as a whole. So over the past 2 years, we've been working with the National Disaster Management Organization to educate young people around sort of the Sendai framework. And then the second part of that is sort of exposing young people to the risk around them and letting them know what goes into a climate risk. And as a first respondent, if a disaster should happen or if there should be a risk manifesting, what can you do? And this is important because, I mean, we see a lot of young people following sort of a particular route of activism mostly. And we think from our perspective, the better the understanding around the risk itself, the more easier it is for young people to see the role that they can actively play. So that means that working together with young people in doing sort of really small scale micro risk assessment, right? So what hazard are you exposed to within your community or within your country? So when you see on the news that there's a hurricane somewhere and you do not have a hurricane in Ghana, you do not feel like, oh, this is not a problem for us. But then you, in your context, here in Ghana, you're able to know that, okay, urban heat island is a risk, a flooding is a risk. And these are things that, as a young person, you know, okay, who is vulnerable and what are the different vulnerability indicators that are important to watch out for? How do you reduce those risks and how do you prepare to respond if there's a flooding, when there are urban heat islands, what are the actions that can be taken? And this is important because this prepare young people in a way that when they get opportunity to dialogue with decision makers, they really have sort of, of course, they are not going to be automatically have the expertise that the technical team at the ministry will have, but at least they're able to be on that table and have conversations that are a little more useful and structured in terms of bringing that input to policymakers. And also, if they are designing their own independent NGO projects or school projects, they have that understanding and knowledge on what are their risks, what are they exposed to, what vulnerability indicators are there, and how do they reduce that. So that is another thing that we're working on. In the broader context of entrepreneurship, we're working on a project called the Sustainable Community Project, which is really allowing young people at the rural and peri-urban communities to take leadership in designing community-based enterprise models. Why is this important for the climate conversation? Because financial capital and natural capital is something that is generally important for the sustainable development of every community. And working with communities and young people there to design their own enterprise models that retain profits within the community, but also defines what resources are supposed to be used and which ones are not supposed to be used. That is important as compared to when you have an external enterprise coming in and extracting resources out of the community and leaving the community with some few development projects here and there, build a tool, which is nice, but really does not leave sort of internal capacity for that community to advance, but rather imposing some development works, which is seen as nice for the community. So we're working with municipalities and local government offices to start sort of mobilizing different enterprises locally and putting community-based models behind it, so that the decision-making around revenue, around resources use, around expansion and scaling enterprises and their production is more community-led and give focus to the needs of people within the community, as opposed to just having a CSR or something that looks good on paper for an enterprise. So these are some of the things that we're working on. And I think in terms of some of the things that we're looking at doing moving forward, and I'm going to stop there, it's really working or connecting with more organizations around the continent in Africa to scale some of these models, like the Youth Climate Council, which is now going to be started in Nigeria, and be considering doing this in Kenya and other countries as well, and expanding some of our enterprise models, these community-based enterprise models across the continent. So that is it on my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And I look forward to the conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're going to dig deeper into that topic. Thanks for the various areas that you have highlighted. I would now like to move to the next speaker, and that is Ms. Ngangom Daloka Zita, and she's from Cameroon. She's a master's student in energy engineering at the Pan-African University Institute of Water and Energy Sciences, ours.
Thank you very much, Margaret. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It's a privilege to be here to talk to you about PCCGC. In the next few minutes, I will share with you what PCCGC is all about and what we do in order to empower young people as we build a climate resilient Africa. PCCGC is the Climate Change and Gender Club of the Pan-African University Institute for Water and Energy Sciences, including climate change. And it is a community of researchers, students, focused on energy and climate change nexus towards building a climate resilient Africa. PCCGC has members in over 23 countries, African countries, and we work to build a network of energy, water, and climate change practitioners by inverting and harnessing innovative solutions that can help fight climate change, and equally while promoting the role of gender. One thing we believe is that though climate change affects everybody, but the women are mostly affected by climate change, and we are also specifically focused on empowering the young women in fighting against climate change. So one of the things we do is that we carry out climate change awareness programs. We had one of such programs in Ghana where we talk to students about climate change. And also we participate in community engagement programs like you can see on your screen, in community engagement programs like painting, celebrating the Earth Day. We celebrated the Earth Day of 2020 where we engage and created awareness about what is climate change, what is the Earth Day, and how as we can together fight against climate change. And in this day, we also organized a webinar session where we talked about the role of youth in fighting against climate change. We can also see that we participate in programs like the United Nations Climate, where we also learn, because we believe that knowledge is also power. Knowledge about climate change is also power in order to fight and mitigate climate change. In addition to this, we also carry out research seminars and capacity building programs where we empower the young people. Our focus is mostly the students, researchers, because we know that we have the power and we have the potentials in order to bring change as we build a climate resilient Africa towards the phase of by 2063. So here are some of the few activities that we do as the PCCGC. And we also know that the journey is a very long one, and together we keep working towards empowering the young people in fighting climate change. So you can always contact PCCGC through their Facebook page. And yeah, I will end with this presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you for those very concrete examples on what you're doing, and also the gender mainstream and highlighting the importance of gender mainstreaming when it comes to climate action. We will then move now to our next speaker, Mr. Aliou Jallow, all the way from Gambia. He's the Executive Director of Startup Incubator Team.
Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to be here today. So at the Startup Incubator, we've established since 2015. And over the years, what we've been doing is supporting entrepreneurs. So we're a home for entrepreneurs where we foster innovation and entrepreneurship in Gambia. So basically what we've done in the past is we've trained different types of entrepreneurs, from fashion to agriculture to renewable energy, to ITC, and different types of entrepreneurs. So basically, we run different types of programs. The first program we run is the Incubation Program, which is a 6 months incubation program, which goes along with coaching, training, capacity building, and access to office space. So we have co-working spaces where we provide entrepreneurs access to facilities such as computers to do their research and internet access and everything else. So that is one part of the programs that we've been running for almost for the past 5 years. But over the years, we have also increased our programs into different sectors. So we had actually launched an accelerator program, which is agribusiness focused. And in these programs, we're able to reach out to we've partnered with the African Development Bank project called Building Resilience, the P2RS project, Building Resilience Against Climate Change and stuff. So we were able to train about 60 entrepreneurs and disburse almost about, we also provide access to funding and capacity build and funds. So we're able to disburse almost about $2 to $3 million to a group of 60 to 80 entrepreneurs. And they went through this rigorous process of building their business models. And the reason why I'm excited about this program is the fact that when you look at agriculture in Gambia, due to climate change, my father, my parents were farmers, but today they hardly can live off of their farming activities because of climate change, the impact of climate change, especially in the region that I come from. So training, this has resulted in a lot of people not going into agriculture or moving from agriculture to the service sector and other industries. But we now see a lot of entrepreneurs who are really interested into, not only subsistence agriculture, but commercialized agriculture. And how do they do this thing sustainably? And I think that's where the incubator has come in and work with the P2RS project to help a lot of entrepreneurs, from horticulture to poultry production to value addition, as well as packaging and adding value to the products that these entrepreneurs actually create. So that is one part of the programs that we do. And we also launch another program that we call design thinking programs. So we're looking at using community-based problems and turning them into solutions, but using human-centered design. So this is a program that we have trained almost about 500 young people across the country. And they're coming on into the technical fields as well as into agriculture, into fashion. So these are different areas of entrepreneurship programs that we've launched as well. And the third one we launched most recently was one of our graduates who went on to be a fashion designer for Nike, and we see fashion is also one of the contributing factors for climate change. But she was able to learn about sustainable fashion designs and ethical fashion, and she came back and we launched a fashion accelerator program for about a group of 25 fashion designers. So this is a way our program is also geared towards the same young people that are actually trained through the program are coming back and serving as mentors, as trainers, to provide a replicative effect in the community. So this is basically some of the major programs we've done. And recently we also are launching by ILO as Start and Improve Your Business methodology programs. And these are the kind of partnerships that we're able to work. So over the years, we've worked with the US State Department, we've worked with the EU, we've worked with the German corporations, we've also worked with the African Development Bank and some part of the Ministry of Higher Education. We've also worked with the Ministry of Trade and as well as the Ministry of Information and Communication Technology in Gambia. So these are some of the programs and projects that we've done. And the reason why we need to move to green economy, and I think this is some of the conversation we're going to have later on, is that the youth unemployment, climate change is not only affecting, it's also exacerbated the youth unemployment case. And, as a result of the pandemic, this problem we have, it's extreme. And the Gambia is a youthful population. And for us to be able to help and train more young people to be economically viable and to be able to build sustainable enterprises, because when I talk about sustainable enterprises here, it's not only about making money, but also social enterprises that are socially conscious and purpose-driven to make sure that we solve the community problems that we are facing within the various communities. So a business exists in a community. It's no longer a social corporate responsibility. It's just not enough, but we need to build purposefully sustainably driven enterprises that don't only just look for profit, but also for climate sustainability, as well as empowering youth, as well as contributing to the community development. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and also for highlighting the importance of having trained people, or having people going through your program and coming back stronger in order to have more duplicating effects and sharing that knowledge with other people. And we have now our last but not the least, our final presentation from Ms. Paula Ellinger from Brazil. She's the Climate Program Manager at Fundación Avina.
Thank you very much, Margaret, and thank you indeed for all the presentations. It's truly inspiring to see all that's been done to empower young leaders throughout Africa. Fundación Avina, as I mentioned at the beginning, is a Latin American foundation, and at this moment we are engaging with IDRC, UNU, Flaxo Ecuador, and other national institutions to promote Impulsouth as an initiative to strengthen the role of young climate leaders in the developing world through a South-South cooperation. So some of you might be wondering, what does Impulsouth mean? It's the combination of two words, impulse and south. Impulse referring to a stimulus to action, to climate action, and south acknowledging the South-South cooperation approach that we bring through Impulsouth. So as the name states, and as I already mentioned, our purpose is to be an impulse for climate action by strengthening knowledge and capacity of young leaders in developing countries. We are currently, Impulsouth will be operating in 6 countries, Dominican Republic and Guatemala in Latin America and the Caribbean. And in Africa, will be in Madagascar, Zambia, Uganda, and Niger. As I mentioned, it's really exciting for us to be able to promote South-South cooperation among strengthening the role of young leaders in all these countries. Our time frame is looking towards the global stocktake in 2023. So we hope that the young professionals that we engage with participate in a proactive way at the global stocktake in 2023. The initiative has started a few months ago, so we're very new and fresh, really looking up to learn from other initiatives as those presented here. If you can please move forward. Yes, one more. Okay, thank you. At the heart of what we do is collaboration. So nowadays, the Impulsouth is being promoted by the funder, who is IDRC, coordinated by Fundación Avina and implemented by UNU and Flaxo Ecuador. We're now engaging with national partners to bring national institutions to the table. At the moment, we already have the national research institutions in Guatemala and Dominican Republic, and they are in the process of identifying in the other countries. We are also in close dialogue with national focal points to the UNFCCC in each country, and I especially thank Mr. Michel Omer for joining us here today as our counterpart at this project. Now going to the concrete part, what are the entry points that Impulsouth will be working with and offering to young leaders? I would like to stress 4. One is scholarships for research that solves national capacity needs and gaps. So we are looking at what are key capacity needs and gaps that are common to the 6 countries, and we'll be offering scholarships to answer to these gaps. It will be regarding the adaptation planning stage, with a focusing on assessing the impacts of climate change. The scholarships, the call for scholarships will be open in 2022. The second entry point is an online training. It will be a 6 months online training in order to bring concrete knowledge and practical tools for young professionals to develop action plans in order to turn commitments into action. The training will be linked to a solutions lab, where the plans that are developed during the training can be put into practice. The solutions lab will include mentorship, seed funding, and networks. And finally, transversal to all these 3 entry points that I mentioned will be bringing young professionals to global governance spaces like COPs or regional climate weeks to come, and so on. So that's it from my side for now, Margaret. And more information is also at our website, that's impulsouth.org. Thank you very much.
Okay, as we come to the final round of the session, thank you very much, Paula, for your presentation. So we're at the roundtable stage, and we'd like to encourage all the presenters to, all the participants, if they have any questions or comments, to put that in the chat. And we have one which has already come in, which states one of the hindrances to most startups, especially in Africa, is lack of finance resources. How do you empower the youth in this regard? So with that question in mind, and also in getting into the round table, one of the things that we would like to hear is, if based on the different initiatives that you have shared, what are some of the entry points that young people have, and how can they really come in to make a difference, and to also actively participate in order to be part of, to have stronger empowerment in climate transparency and green recovery? And if anyone is able to also speak to the question in the chat about resources, you can also speak to that. So we'll start again from Christina. Just a quick wrap up. What is your final sort of parting shot for this session?
Thank you very much, Margaret. It's great to hear about all these initiatives. From my side, since you asked about concrete entry points, perhaps I thought I could highlight more specific activities that we promote at UNCC Learn that may be of interest to young people active on climate change. So first of all, I mentioned earlier the UNCC Learn platform. This is available in 6 different languages and includes almost 40 courses on different climate change topics. These are all self-paced. They are available for free and are associated with the final UN certificate. Anybody can register. and follow these courses at their own time. In addition, thinking about these climate conferences and big forum coming up, we organize an initiative called the Climate Classroom in conjunction with major conferences, and in particular the next one will take place at COP26. This includes a series of learning sessions on key topics related to the negotiations, and this year, due to the pandemic, it will be online, so we'll give the possibility to professionals at COP but also outside of COP to attend. We are organizing a TEDx event on youth and climate change as well, and a new series of youth climate dialogues, which I mentioned earlier. So this information will become also available on the website, and where opportunities for young people to apply or contribute. Finally, we have a series of online resources, including podcasts, radio episodes, TV programs, library of materials, which are also available on the UNCCRN website. To conclude, to answer the second question, I also would like to mention that we offer training on climate finance as part of the support we do at national level. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And if there are any further resources that you'd like to share, please put them in the chat so that if they're of interest to some of the participants. And next, we're going to hear from Michelle. And as we share some of these entry points, we have to remember that it's also quite important for us to learn from you. How has training been linked, for example, to creating impact at the government level? And even as you point at specific entry points for youth. And also if you can speak, if it's possible to speak of the question on resources, you're also welcome. So over to you, Mr. Michel Omer.
Merci beaucoup. Oui, comme le temps est très limité, donc je vais résumer ça. Je travaille pour le gouvernement. Donc, le rôle du gouvernement dans tout ça, c'est que d'essayer d'élaborer, d'établir les cadres légaux, les législations, la politique générale de l'État, etc., etc. Parce que ça, c'est la première chose. Parce que la formation, comme je vous dis qu'à Madagascar, le ministère chargé de l'environnement s'occupe du changement climatique. Et au sein du gouvernement, seul le ministère de l'Environnement qui a des ambassadeurs dans les structures gouvernementales, c'est-à-dire le ministère de l'Environnement a ce qu'on appelle cellule environnementale au sein de chaque ministère. Mais chaque ministère qui sont impactés par le changement climatique. Ministère sectoriel, bien sûr, dans l'énergie, santé, etc., etc. Alors là, on essaie de former les jeunes pour qu'ils puissent intégrer, comme vous voyez, pour qu'ils puissent intégrer la politique environnementale, la dimension environnementale, la dimension changement climatique dans leur projet, dans leur plan d'action, etc., etc., au sein de leurs départements respectifs. Actuellement, on est en train de décentraliser tout ceci dans les districts, dans les provinces, dans les régions. Comme ça, on arrive à changer un tout petit peu la mentalité des jeunes, surtout, qu'est-ce qu'on doit faire pour changer, pour lutter vraiment contre le changement climatique. Parce que sans ce cadre légal, il serait difficile d'envisager que les jeunes de demain, les jeunes d'aujourd'hui vont continuer ou bien vont affronter la lutte contre le changement climatique. Ça, c'est la politique du ministère de l'Environnement qui intègre le volet changement climatique dans tous les secteurs de développement de Madagascar pour que tiennent compte ce volet changement climatique dans leurs actions respectives. Je crois que c'est tout parce que le temps est très court. Oui, je vous remercie beaucoup.
Oui, merci beaucoup pour ça. We're going to pass to the next speaker. Faten, please, if you could give us your final remarks.
Yeah, thank you very much, Margaret. For me, maybe my final remark, as I introduced the network earlier and also what we offer as a program of capacity development and also partnerships, collaboration. I would like to highlight and to mention that within YES community, we have an African group. This is a regional group for African activities. And also we have regional representative for the African continent. We have 2. And also we are promoting our regional actions. In addition to African actions, we have also in South America. So this is a network which is open to all young scientists, and we are welcoming all young scientists to be with us, and also even to have some youth initiative that we can work and promote together. So this is my final word, and thank you.
Thank you, Faten, and also for being mindful of the time. And now over to you, Joshua. What is your final takeaway for today?
Thanks a lot. I think from my side, really, I'm just going to post a couple of links in the chat. We're working together with the youth constituency of the UNFCCC, with the Global Center on Adaptation's Youth Adaptation Network, and a couple of other networks which sort of shape the work we do and also connect with them in terms of partnerships. So it will be great for folks here and other young people who are within your networks to be part of this, to sort of encourage partnership between and amongst the work that we're doing here. Thanks.
Okay, and from the great work that you're doing on a gender perspective, over to you, Zita.
Thank you very much, Margaret. Okay, from my end, I think that one of the ways is to create and take youth inclusive actions. In addition to the things that I have earlier mentioned during my presentation, we don't only end at that, but as I said, this CGC is made up of youth from over 23 African countries. So back even in our home countries, we do take actions and lead the young ones, empowering them towards taking actions towards in the face of climate change. And talking about the gender aspect specifically for women, I think that one of the ways to practically encourage women is to put them over leadership positions in the fight against climate change, because women have this potential and they are able to do that. So by putting them leaders over some certain aspects, we are exposing them directly into taking actions as we fight against climate change. So that's a quick contribution from my end. Thank you very much.
Okay, and now going back once more to Gambia to hear more from Aliou Jallo. What are your closing remarks?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention about the finance. I think when I was speaking, somebody asked about the finances as well. I think one of the things that we do, we have a seed funding program, which is a recycling fund that we give out to some entrepreneurs, and they pay back after a year or 2, depending on how successful the business is. And then we also have grant schemes where we work with the international development partners that have funding to give out, but then they walk through us to disburse these funds to the entrepreneurs. So we help them with the due diligence and disbursing these funds. I think my last words will be for climate change. I think it's going back to building sustainable businesses. And I think here is we have the UN Sustainable Development Goals. There are some efforts, countries that are doing some efforts, but there are some. But I think from the grassroots level, this is where we need to inculcate that. In building businesses, we need to be conscious about the Sustainable Development Goals and how best we can build purpose-driven enterprises and not just for-profit-driven enterprises.
Okay, thank you very much. And now I would also like to highlight, there's a question that has come in the chat for you, Mr. Michel, if you could engage with that on the chat. But last and not the least, South-to-South collaboration, very important for us. Over to you, Paula Ellinger.
Thank you very much, Margaret. I would like to give my final word regarding the purpose of our work. And I think it might be common to many of us. Science and the Paris Agreement, and we all know that we need to transit to a net zero and a resilient world. This means that there's a lot that needs to be done in the coming 30 years. And it's the youth of today, the young people of today who are entering the marketplace and who are already innovating and trying to create innovative ways, who will transit and lead the society to this resilient and zero emissions world, hopefully. So I think it's extremely important for us to bear this in mind. When we talk about youth empowerment, we are really talking about who are going to be the leaders of this transition that is going to take place in the coming years. So yeah, that's why we truly believe that we need cooperation, collaboration, bringing together resources and innovation, because we are talking here about the leaders of the resilient and low emissions world in 2050. Thank you very much, Margaret, for leading us.
Okay, thank you. As we come to the end of this session, we have really learned a lot today and exchanged on so many different resources. And I will just take a minute to sort of summarize the conversations that we have had. And starting off, first of all, with the importance of learning and education capacity building and building awareness, and most importantly, ensuring that it's tailored to the needs of the learners and to ensure that this knowledge is applied. And most importantly, we know that there are those formal ways of education, and also how about those people who are not going to formal schools, as we have learned in from the case of Madagascar, the importance of being inclusive in the policy making process, importance of ensuring that education is inside and integrated in education curriculum, as we have learned from the biggest island in Africa. And then we have also spoken a lot about the importance of bringing people from different disciplines together, young scientists, and the power of those partnerships in building capacity and giving people an entry point to participate. And even most importantly, the case in Ghana through the Youth Climate Council, the importance of structure, a go-to place for policymakers, the importance of training so that when there's that dialogue between youth and policymakers, we're talking about important issues that are valuable, and also entrepreneurship, and hearing from different voices when it comes to entrepreneurships and startups. We're not only looking at this agribusiness, also the importance of journalism, fashion, all those different spheres, and how do you come up with interesting community business models to inform for rural communities in that, because they're very important. Gender also has been highlighted quite strongly in this session from the POWERS perspective, which brings together students from over 23 different African countries. The importance of gender mainstreaming in what we do within climate action, and also working closely with policymakers is quite key. And also this element of innovation, as we have had, it doesn't stop at only capacity building, but also integrating community design thinking and community-based programs, and also ensuring that people who have been trained, we put in an element of duplicating that effect to community members. And finally, the impact of climate change does not rest on only one location, but south to south collaboration is quite important. And it really is a pleasure to be sharing the experiences in different African countries, also learning from the experiences in Latin American countries as well. So with that summary, and also with the different resources that have been shared in the chat, I believe that this gives us a good takeaways for application, and also lots to chew, and also see how it sort of reflects in our day-to-day work, and also in the impact that we want to make for climate action. Thank you very much for everyone. And with that, enjoy the rest of your day, and let's keep going with the African Climate Week.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a nice day.
Bye.
Bye.